call this meeting to order. Today's August 28, 2014, and this is the Arundel Planning Board. On the agenda today, we have approval of the agenda. We have a section for public comment. We have the approval of the minutes of August 14, 2014. We have a pending application by AIM Recycling. We have a new application, Laura Lane Private Way Extension, and we will be looking at zoning ordinance amendments, specifically the Townhouse Corner District, and we will be looking at the Gateway District. And then we'll have the planners report. We need a motion for the approval of the agenda. He's right. We should have a roll call first.
Ron Kane, Tom McGinn.
Jamie Lowry. John McKendra.
Rich Ganong.
Roger Warren.
And Carter, Board Secretary.
Yes.
What time is cut off?
Cut off.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock? Okay.
Just checking that for the point.
Okay. Now could I get a motion?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Approved unanimously. Okay. Public comment on non-agenda items. Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes for August 14th, 2014. You've all had the minutes emailed to you. Hopefully you've had a chance to read them.
I make a motion to be accepted as written.
Motion has been made.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Okay, I need to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting. So, 5 in favor, 1 abstention. The next item, AIM Recycling. We had a site walk tonight. Anybody have any questions for the applicant who is here concerning the site walk? And do you want to make a brief presentation?
Sure. So thank you all for making the site visit tonight. We have a fairly good idea as to what the size of this proposed yard is. Based on our last meeting, we had a few items that you asked for some additional backup information. The first being a traffic study. What we had discussed was, if you remember, I took a look at the ITE manual. There's really nothing that's really similar to what we're proposing to do here at all. In this case, the applicant does have several other facilities that are operating in the same capacity. So we've taken traffic counts at those other 2 locations. Both of those are in larger cities with much larger yards. So we were able to get traffic counts and kind of scale them back to what this yard would be and try to get some sort of an expected number for what we're expecting at this yard. And ultimately, as far as trips per day, we're trips per hour. DOT, the threshold that they put forth is 100 trips per hour would trigger a traffic movement permit. This development right here, along with what they're currently doing, we're estimating the traffic volume is somewhere in the 28 trips per hour threshold. That would be with what's proposed and what's existing. So we're well below that threshold, even with this proposed development. So with that, I guess we're proposing that no further in-depth traffic study be necessary. Really, that's, I think, the best way to estimate what could possibly be out there from an existing.
Just so it's clear, the 28 trips per day is your estimate for the operations as existing and also including
Correct.
the new operations, the new processing that you're doing.
That's correct. Yep.
So the total trips with the new processing.
That's correct.
Yeah, it was 28 per 100.
Yeah, 28 per hour.
Per hour.
Oh, I'm sorry, 28 per hour.
And that's a 9-hour business day.
And that's assuming a 9-hour business day.
Right.
And what are your hours of operation?
I assumed in this 8 to 5, but if it's more than that, that only makes it less per hour. I assumed about as minimum as it would be. their hours, I think, are 7 to 4, maybe 7:30 to 4, somewhere in that, it was actually taken over the signs, I'm not really sure what their exact hours are, but it's no less than 9 hours for sure.
You mentioned having to go through a DEP process.
That's correct.
Can you explain?
Sure. As part of this site is, has a current solid waste processing permit through DEP. With this expansion, they'd be required to file an amendment to that existing application. And we are in the process of putting that application together. So that would be filed kind of, basically what we planned on, I think, from our last meeting, we're going to pull that application together, submit it, and bring that completed application package to you folks. I think you at least have that application package. Instead of waiting for the whole approval, that could be 9 months or a year, you know, instead of pushing it down the road. We issue some sort of a conditional approval that gets approved.
What do you expect that they will require you to do from a stormwater management?
Stormwater management is going to be the same as what the town would require, follow Chapter 500 regulations. So we're going to have to look at stormwater quality, stormwater quantity, the whole 9 yards there. Really whatever, the town and DEP follow the same set of rules in this case. So really, I'm doing the stormwater calculations technically as part of the town's permit, and we're going to use that as part of the DEP permit. So, and that would be, like we discussed on the site, that pond there is really the centerpiece of the treatment for this site, especially for the new portion here. That will treat for both quantity and quality on the site.
That'll all be redesigned, that pond you mentioned in your...
Yes, that's correct, because that pond was initially built, I think around 20 years ago, somewhere in that vicinity. It has been excavated out and kind of reformed in the last 8 or 10 years. But regulations have changed since then. Now they require under drain outlets and benches, safety benches, and many other things that will certainly be taken into account and have to be for DEP and the town to follow Chapter 500.
Any other?
Well, I think the big things would be just the stormwater
Yeah.
management. That's the huge
Yeah.
issue. So you get work cut out for that.
Absolutely.
And we mentioned the screening.
Yep.
There is a budding neighbor that we have to screen from. And also, we didn't mention it, but I think the traffic flow, you will have customers going in
Yep.
where you haven't had
Sure.
it before, so that would need to be.
You'll see that on the site plan, basically, see the arrows on that. I mean, I can give you an explanation, but I'll also show it on the site plan if you'd like. But basically, I don't know if you remember walking on the site, but there is a pretty good alleyway between the building and the first set of scales.
Yeah.
That'll be the main entrance for the customers serving that yard. They'll basically walk in. This will be a nice surface for driving. It won't be the loose gravel that we walked on today. It'll be more of that recycled asphalt material that we'll be putting in the yard. They'll be coming into this fenced-in parking lot, so they'll be separated from all other operations. And they'll go right through this point-of-sale building and into the yard.
Will they have to check into the yard? Not the ones who are hauling other material, but
The customers for the yard?
yeah.
Yes, I believe that's the intent, is so that we make sure there's no, we don't want any sort of interaction.
Runners, I mean, check in and check out.
Right.
There'll
There'll be an attendant there that's checking vehicles coming in and out, because they don't want people in the back of the yard without them noticing it.
Yeah, and are they gonna be checking in through that wide path coming in?
Right through here.
Yeah. That's why I'm just saying that, just wondering,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they would be smart to do that, honestly, because, and I'll recommend that to them, because there may be some yard traffic in there as far as, the cranes and whatnot.
that's the only thing I'm thinking of, I mean, at least they check in and check out that way,
Sure.
because then they'll go to their designated area to go play.
Right.
So,
Sure.
then they got something to check into where the play area is.
Correct.
To check out.
Correct. Yeah, so this, basically, once they enter this area, they're all fenced in.
Yeah.
So there won't be any real operations going around it. It's really, like you say, the getting to that area. And I think, you know, their whole goal is to try to separate that as much as possible. They don't want any interaction with the customers versus the yard operations.
That is something that was just a thought.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'll bring that up shortly.
You had mentioned something, there's some kind of material that you're going to be putting down underneath that will help direct all of the water?
Yeah, essentially, if you look,
Right.
you kind of see this detail right here is kind of the typical buildup for what we're looking to put in the yard. Basically, there's what we call roadway geotextile, and it's basically a fairly thin woven geotextile. It's plastic for all intents and purposes, but it really doesn't allow water through. Its main intent is actually to provide a separation between the gravel and the subgrade material, so you don't have any differential settlement. But it really does serve also as moving water. If water really doesn't go through it very easily at all. So what's really going to happen is we're going to have that geotextile in place, have gravel on top of that, and then have our surface material on top of that. That wrap material by itself provides a fair bit of impervious properties in and of itself. Water really doesn't like to go through that. It's a fairly compact material all by itself, but anything that goes down through there would still be caught in that geotextile to 99% of it would be. And it gets sent off. Basically, the intent here, for those of you that are in the field, the intent is to treat all of this yard area in that pond. And so in order to accomplish that, I have a ditch basically on the whole bottom side, direct that to the pond. So really any surface water that falls onto this yard is going to get caught in that ditch and treated.
That pad is like a woven pad like the internal put down, but it has different composition to kill weeds when you use in your flower beds. It's something similar to that, but has a totally different.
Yeah, it's well, you know what silt fence? You know silt fence? You see here on construction sites, it's a little denser than that. Silt fence is made to put water through it, but it's the same concept of kind of with woven. It's almost like a tarp material. It's something similar to that. So.
Through the chair, that is also, what the applicant is proposing is that would be in lieu of paving the site. Because the requirement of the ordinance is that the site would be paved. He is proposing to do this as, to achieve, it's a performance, basically it's a performance response, where we achieve the same thing as paving without going through the expensive.
Right, it's one of the waivers he's looking for, right?
And I think it has the added benefit of preventing any sort of groundwater penetration from above. It's really going to direct everything to be treated first.
Are there any other questions by the board? So we should address the issue of waivers.
Through the chair, if I may ask, did you want to address any of these details?
If you'd like to go through them, I certainly can.
Is it relevant to the question for waivers?
I think if that was more, they wanted to see what I needed to provide building plans as part of the application, and I just provided that as part of the submission. I can certainly provide explanations if that's the case. The only thing I did mention with you before the meeting started was the building that's kind of a culvert building. The detail that we provided is from another facility. It's from one of their other facilities. That the building that's there is actually quite a bit bigger. I believe that one's a 40 by 60. This one is a 30 by 48. So the footprint, the dimensions that are shown on that are specific to that building. So we scale that. Instead of 25 feet, 24 feet tall like that one was, this one's going to be in the neighborhood of 19, I think, and it's going to be 30 foot by 40 foot, 48, 48. With a garage door on the long side.
19 feet, is that going to be big enough for any of your cranes or anything else that we need to be going there? I'm just thinking of.
I think most of this, from what I understand, is accomplished with 4 trucks. You know, they'll be.
Okay, I'm just thinking,
Right.
I'm thinking of the field, we have, this is not road height,
Right.
But 19 feet turnaround in many ways is short
Sure,
in case you have to do anything else.
sure. Yep. No, I think they've used these buildings in a lot of their other facilities, and it's a specially made building for this application. So it's a prefab building basically for this application. And if you look in the Yeah, well, if you look, and a lot of it has to do with the foundation, the way that's built up. You'll see in there where it's got predetermined bays for secondary containment, basically, of any sort of fluids that may escape. What happens with this is pretty neat, actually. Instead of punching a hole up through the pan to drain the oil out, it actually drills a hole. So you have to drain even more of the fluid. When you punch a hole, you get little spurs that come up from the inside, and it actually keeps a lot of that fluid in whatever tank you're trying to drain. When you drill it like that, you don't have quite as many, you drain a lot more of that fluid. There's not anywhere near the capacity for any more drippage.
Yeah, but they don't want to come and get the oil pan. It's hard to get an oil pan if they don't even get the hole in it.
Yeah, well, it's better than storing up the fluids on site. So.
Ken, do you have a list of the different waivers?
It's in the staff notes.
I know. Right. Now, the DEP permit, we were looking at saying, it's been the practice in the past that if you give us the submission to show us that you've we'll make it a note on the plan and consider that to be a good thing.
Yes, and we're plenty amiable for that. Like I said, we're working on that as we speak. As soon as we submit it, we'll provide that package to you.
Any comments on the traffic study waiver? Did you like the idea? Did you not like the idea?
Are we considering granting that waiver at this point?
Yeah, I think that's something that we could consider. We've got the information on the traffic. I mean, if it's here and we can take care of those now, it would smooth the process going further down the road.
At the last meeting, we said that all we needed is some documents to prove the income. And that's what we provided for us tonight.
So I'll make a motion that, based upon the documentation provided by the applicant, that we grant the waiver for the traffic impact study.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant the waiver. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Do we need to have a groundwater study?
I think the last time we met, we said we needed to know what the wells were on the plan.
Right. You're going to mark
Yes,
that?
and I'll mark it on there. I can tell you right now. I went out there today with the GPS. It's 360 feet from the nearest point of car storage. So it's somewhere down in this facility right there. And I believe the ordinance said 300 feet is the separation required from. Is that correct, Dad?
Yes.
Okay.
Will there be any monitoring of that well?
There's monitoring on site elsewhere through their DEP permit. So any, from this pond gets monitored, which is where all the water from this development goes to this pond. So that pond is monitored, absolutely.
Well, the question is also at the same time, with all the blasting, the fact is that it may change the water quality or anything else, because you'll have to do some of that factors.
Sure. The only, I guess, thing I'd say there is we're probably 600 feet from that well with any blasting we'd be doing. And it's not going to be big blasts. We'd be doing small blasts, if they blast at all. They maybe if it's soft ledge, they may be able to hold it.
I kind of doubt that. They're looking at.
We can certainly try that. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
No, I'm just wondering if there's going to be any monitoring to that well.
Yeah, and I think we can certainly offer to do that.
I mean, for them,
Yep.
And for you,
We can do before and after, just studies of that well, before and after blasting.
Either that or try to give them the option
Yep.
of public water.
Sure. And they've been contacted, they're aware of the
No, I
stuff.
just-
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and we can certainly, I know the client would be agreeable to providing monitoring of that well, before and after blasting.
That's why I say if we mention it now,
Yep,
it's already
sure,
facts.
yep. Good point.
Discussing groundwater studies?
Yes, yep.
I'm satisfied with the proposed impervious surface being applied in terms of the groundwater being protected. I don't see any reason not to grant the groundwater study waiver.
Got a motion, John?
Well, no, I was
No,
trying
I-
to judge the,
I would think before, and it's my fault I jumped ahead, before we look at that, we have to address the issue of pavement. Because if he has to pave it, or if he doesn't pave it, either way will have an impact on the groundwater study.
Do you have to do any type of groundwater study in your submission to the DEP?
No more than what they call just a standard intensity soil survey, which is just basically providing a map, a soils map that shows what types of soils are in the area.
Which I'm not quite sure what you mean by, if there's pavement, we have to do a groundwater study. Because if there's pavement, you're creating impervious, which you're funneling to a pond, and that treatment pond is being approved by DEP, right?
It will be, but I'm not sure that we don't want to make the decision about the soil first. Yes, it's going to flow out to the drainage pond, but I think it's going to be a little bit harder for it to get down into.
Some
That-
water level.
Something-
Yes, that material that he was talking about, which would then direct it toward the pond.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, which is,
It would have the same effect, but
the purpose of a groundwater study would be to ensure the quality of the groundwater before and make sure that it's not affected afterwards.
Okay.
But if the surface we're working on is impervious, then I personally don't see the need for a groundwater study. I don't know, maybe the rest of the members have some other opinions on that. I'd like to have that discussion.
I know for what it's worth, DEP would 100% rather it be a semi-permeable surface. They'd rather see it filter through the ground naturally than have it run over the entire surface. So I think, really, as far as they'd be concerned, they'd rather see it filter through the gravel that we're providing and run subsurface, to a treatment area, rather than catching everything it goes.
Yeah, as what you're proposing as opposed to the paved
Exactly.
idea.
Exactly. From their perspective.
Right, but
Would
right
be a
now our
screening and
ordinance
filtering.
requires the pavement.
Does it allow us to make exceptions?
Yes, we can waive that, am I correct?
You need a performance standard met.
Right.
In other words, the material has got to be impervious so the surface has to be impervious so that there is no infiltration in the groundwater system. And the difference between this and the pavement is that the impervious surface is actually subsurface rather than being at the surface. And then there's also a semi-permanent or semi-permeable surface that might become darn close to impervious at the surface.
Over time, after it's been driven on a lot, it's going to get rolled initially and compacted quite dense. But over time, it's going to get filled in with silky material, whatever's driven on. Plus, it's just got to be driven over with the forklifts, and it's going to become pavement again, essentially.
So the issue isn't really what the groundwater is, and how the groundwater moves, what its quality is. The issue is that impervious surface has got to be created, and then there's no need for groundwater. So that's essentially what it was.
So what we have is an impervious surface but it's not at the surface, it's below
Not
the
traditional
surface.
asphalt.
And the secondary impervious surface that would be formed afterwards, so we've got double protection in this case.
And the applicant's been asked to provide that technical documentation as part of your
Yeah,
application,
I can forward that to you.
so that the board can review that. But if you do follow that requirement of having that impervious surface, then there's really not much need for groundwater study in this kind of situation. Because it's not like we're introducing stuff into the groundwater. We're not introducing nitrates or metals or anything into that. We're not discharging.
You will be supplying that documentation?
Yeah, I can provide that first thing in the morning.
Richard, going back to what you were saying about the asphalt waiver, I'll throw out a motion that we grant that waiver for homeless or whatever.
Recycled asphalt pavement.
Okay.
Replanting.
To allow,
Basically, yeah.
right,
Yeah, so to allow for this alternative.
I'll second.
So the motion has been made and seconded to waive the pavement aspect in favor of this material.
Well, leave the groundwaters done.
No,
Yeah.
that's one.
Okay.
It's a separate waiver.
Asphalt.
He was talking about the asphalt.
All right, 'cause we were working on groundwater studies.
Right, but I
so-
said-
Just to clarify that.
So, you want to restate that?
That we grant the waiver, or I don't know what number that was, but for bituminous requirement, because the alternative meets impervious, or to allow for the alternative. As long as we have documentation, and I don't really know.
Is there an ordinance number that applies to our township?
No, not really. If I may.
Yeah.
I think that's something you want to do after you get your documentation, because it's not really a submission. If they're asking for a waiver on the submission, the waiver on the submission that they're asking for is groundwater. You're going to be supplying a performance alternative, and probably the board wants to look at that performance alternative in its technical aspect before you make a decision.
So just stay with the groundwater.
So I'll withdraw that motion.
I would recommend that.
So I will make a motion to the effect, I thought I was seconding before, but that we waive the groundwater study in view of the fact that the applicant will be providing materials that will meet the requirements of will provide documentation that the applicant will provide an impervious surface on which to operate.
Do we have a second?
I'll second
Okay. So the motion has been made and seconded to waive the groundwater study. All those in favor? Unanimous. We've been asked to waive the market study. Did we?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the same with fiscal impact. And I think we have an agreement on the
That was the good one.
How do you feel about the building plan? They're not the same building that's going in. It's the same style of building, but it's not.
The dimensions are just
The
like,
dimensions are different. The dimensions are off by what, about 25%?
yeah, 20%. The construction will stand, all the connections are the same, the foundation that you see in there is the same, everything's the same, it's just the dimensions are slightly
How
out.
is it moving on? As long as that's noted on the plan, I don't see a problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem with that.
soil survey. I don't think we'll actually.
What do we do with that?
We haven't looked at that yet.
Okay. I thought we were going hard.
Jump around.
So I move to waive the high intensity. Then I do that. I move that we waive the high intensity soil survey. We're not doing a No changes to your septic system or anything like that?
There'll be no water or sewer service for any of those buildings.
But you still would be
Do we want-
providing your water monitoring stations? Because they're supposed to be quarterly or whatever. You have different stations that have like water samples or whatever
For
also.
groundwater?
Yeah.
Oh, groundwater, yes. Groundwater gets done through DEP for the outlets of the ponds, and you know, they have pre-located, you know, predetermined locations that they have to sample from. I think we're talking,
Heinz Institute.
we're talking drinking water. No-
Yeah, yeah, there'll be some monitoring. So-
Correct, yes, yep.
Now, you've proposed waiving the high-intensity soil. What about the medium intensity? They say they think that would be sufficient.
I'm fine with that.
You fine with that? Okay.
I'll second Jason's motion.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to waive the high-intensity study. Anybody opposed? All those in favor? Motion carries. Are there any other waivers that were requested?
If you look on the plan, if I may jump in, we talked, I believe, in the last meeting, just to provide a statement to the effect that it was well in excess of the 500 feet that's required by the ordinance. I did throw a note on the plan just at the entrance location to that effect.
You make a motion?
Let's approve that.
We're being asked to waive the site distance study.
Site
no,
distance is more than adequate.
we didn't waive, we just,
Just ask for,
He's showing it on the plan.
the last time when we met, we said that as long as it's shown on the plan, that was sufficient. So we're not really waiving.
Okay.
yeah, it was, I think the discussion was more how exact it really
Right.
needs to be.
Where is, also just for giggles, where is the closest fire hydrant?
Across the street. Across the street from Phil's place, from Enterprise Drive.
They're 1,000 feet.
Well, 1,000 feet to the frontage, so it's going to be
Oh,
1,000 feet to the,
1,000 feet to the building, that's right.
so from a firefighting standpoint, yeah, we're close down Route 1, when the line crossed, LVH crossed, and, okay. So, yeah, Route 1 will be closed down. But there's water supply within 1,000 feet of the front part of that water place.
Anybody have anything else? Anything you want?
I think I'm all set, as long as we get a resolution on the buildings.
What do they-
Stay in
I
there.
don't think there's any issue with it, as long as you're.
We show the dimensions on the plan itself.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I guess that answers all my questions. So, moving forward, I'm gonna go forward with the DEP application. I think that's the only real hang-up, as far as the town's concerned, if I understand correctly. So we'll get that package to you guys and, move forward from there. Thank you all for your time, I appreciate it.
Should we schedule a public hearing or wait?
No, they haven't submitted
Wait
a
till
full
it gets.
application.
Okay.
Remember, this is a pre-app.
Okay. Moving right along. The next item, new applications, Laura Lane private way. We have nothing to review.
There was just a note here.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
there's a note in there. You gave them to, you gave them to, I don't know.
You got an extra? Any extras?
this applicant is here right now?
Yes, the applicant is here.
Okay. I think I need more information on what the situation is.
I apologize to the board, that the applicant, we didn't receive any maps from the applicant to submit, I just received this tonight. But it is, what we have here essentially is, I put them on the agenda and you might as well bring it up right now. But the issue is that essentially the applicant owns a piece of property that is the back lot of the remainder portion of the subdivision that was approved back in 1988, I think. And it was a subdivision with a subdivision road. And the specifications and the conditions on that were that if the road was ever to be extended, that the cul-de-sac at the end had to be removed, the road had to be continued on, and a new cul-de-sac put in at the very end. The applicant has got a situation where he wants to divide that land into essentially additional lots for his children. He wants to make a division, so it would not involve the planning board, it would be a family division. But the road is the issue because the road currently does serve more than 6 lots at this point. Actually, it serves 8, I believe. And that is something that if he does an extension of that, that is through the province of the planning board. The issue also is that the extension of this over 8 lots requires it to be paved. But the applicant, that would be a rather substantial cost to the applicant. The applicant can in fact expand this, given the fact that there is a house at the end of the road, and there is potential to get in another road, but it would be off-center from the cul-de-sac, and it would essentially, it would be difficult to continue it in the same track or the same horizontal alignment that it's currently in. Plus, on top of that, the applicant would like the board to consider whether or not this would be a private way off of another private way. And he would like to make an argument that would preclude, that he would be precluded from having to pave the entire road and consider this to be a separate private way off the subdivision road. So we need some ruling from the planning board.
Personally, I need to see that. I need a map with some dimensions on it and some minimal data. I can't even conceive of what we're trying to do here.
You didn't bring your map, did you? Did you bring any maps?
I got one copy I gave you 4 copies of.
Yeah. Why don't you make your,
This is the cul-de-sac in Sam, this is here. This is my driveway. And this is the proposed driveway that I want to put in. Get a lot here, and then expand another lot later on here. I'm looking for 1 lot right now. I do want 2 lots. This is a private way. We have a road association, we all pitch in. I plow the road, I grade it. I get paid to plow it. I'm a paid grader, but I get paid to plow it going back from the association. It's no burden to the town, because the town doesn't do nothing for that road. They don't mow the soft shoulders, they don't plow it, they don't grade it, they don't do nothing.
So you're looking for an extension of your private way?
Yeah, I want to create a private right of way here, so that I can sell it.
Well, I'm confused between right-of-way and...
Well, this is the road, this is the
Right.
right of way.
But you're gonna build a road.
Yes, I want to build
Right.
a road to get to lots. I have 62 acres here, and
And 18 feet. I think we need some real detail here.
Because you're building one right away off another right away.
Well, and the other thing...
Why is
that-
it easement, isn't it?
Does,
It's a subdivision.
It's an approved
No,
subdivision.
when I read it, he has the right of way to his lot. Is that not an easement because somebody else owns the road?
He owns it.
No, he has frontage on that road.
No, the road is owned by James Frank.
Okay. He owns frontage on that.
She disappeared, she sold the last lot, disappeared.
Is this an amendment to a subdivision?
Yeah, that would be my
That was
question.
that was the question. It would be that, and that's something the board has to make a determination whether this is an amendment to a subdivision or if this is a private way off an existing subdivision road.
Well,
Just,
as I understand the subdivision, it specified that if this was going to be extended, the cul-de-sac had to be moved.
Yeah, this cul-de-sac, yeah, it shows it on the record plan, which there's only one, that this cul-de-sac has to, it's specified that this cul-de-sac has to be removed and it has to be extended.
So that-
If the road is extended, what the applicant's saying is that he would prefer that this be
Well, there's a
considered a
driveway
separate
off the
private way.
cul-de-sac, though, yeah, really eliminated the driveway there.
Okay, other question is if she owns the road, okay, and at the time, if she's disappeared, how long, who owns it now? Because if she's still owning it, it's still taxable onto your tax maps or anything else, or is it abandoned property?
No, it's actually, there is a,
Yeah, is that
we
road?
usually
agreement
don't
or-
tax that road.
There's
Huh?
a road
Assessor does not
agreement that
tax
was put in
roads.
place after she
And there is
sold
a
the last
maintenance
lot,
agreement
she
in
abandoned it.
place for it.
So one house got foreclosed on, and in order for the real estate to
Yeah.
be able to sell it, they had to
Road maintenance
road
agreement.
maintenance.
Yes.
Everybody has road
That's
tax
a-
except for me.
that's a-
I don't know about this side. I didn't do it,
They did not create an association in
But-
1988.
I lived
Yeah,
there, so I contributed.
sounds like you do as much as anybody.
There's not
It's
one.
only true what you do with it in my road. I plow it, but I do, the association pays me
right.
X amount of dollars.
So when it was, that subdivision was approved, your parcel was part of that subdivision?
Nope, I bought that after it was approved.
But it
I
was,
bought the rest of it,
But was the piece of land part of the approved subdivision?
property.
Yeah, it was considered to be the remainder of the land, yeah. It could have a building permit issued for it as part of it.
So that would have been like lot 7, we'll just use that as an example, as another.
yeah. I was the last lot, I was the last one to do it.
And a building permit was issued and a CO was issued, so.
Yeah, and, but if any, even though that
There,
he's lot 7, if any other lots are created, it falls into a different category.
there are a whole lot of complications here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We need,
Back to what you
well,
were
speaking for myself, we're gonna need some more detailed plans. We're gonna need to know what the original subdivision plan was and whether this allows for that.
Okay,
We'll need to look at the
Road maintenance.
roads, well, not the maintenance, yeah, the maintenance agreement too, but the standards that the road is built to at the moment. Because if it's gonna be extended, you know, I mean, we'll have to decide whether this is gonna be a separate road or whether this is an extension of the existing road. But either way, we have to know what the building, what are the standards, what's the engineering of the road, what's, you know, how much gravel and so forth and so on, and how wide it is and all of that. So I think we need a lot of detail. And have you already discussed with the applicant that we need some detail?
Yes, he's aware that if he proceeds with this, that he would in fact need to do some additional engineering. He's aware of that. He's talked to an engineer. He has hired already a surveyor to review this. But the issue is that before he proceeds to spend a lot of money on design and review, he needs the board to make a ruling or a decision on how to classify this road, this extension. If this is classified as an extension of the road, then he is subject to subdivision road standards, and therefore he is also, when you have to pave the entire road, because this will be your 8th lot, correct? Yeah. This will be the 8th lot. So if you recall, the standards call for paving after 8 lots on a private way.
So very narrowly, the board needs to come to a decision whether this is an extension of the existing road or whether we can consider it as a separate road coming from Laurel Lane.
Correct. That's really, it's an
And
interpretation.
so if we keep it that narrow, we still need a bunch of information to make that decision.
But in the original plan, anything beyond that cul-de-sac was gonna be an extension of the road, that's what the
Well,
original.
yeah, we need to
But that's
see
what we
that.
need to-
That's part of
we
what
need to
make
verify.
our decision.
Yeah.
So we need that, yeah, well, if
Well,
you've got it, then he needs to share it with us. But yeah, we need to see.
And then,
the-
I mean, if that was reported, it should also be over and out.
It is not. Objective is not. So it was a recorded subdivision, so legally recorded subdivision and subdivision, so it's legitimate subdivision.
There's another question, which is way beyond, until after we have the idea of the road issue. Back then, we didn't have standards for fire protection, and how does that fall into that category?
Can't speak to that.
I'm just throwing it out as a,
It's a good thing to bring up. I can't speak to that because I don't know what the standards were, that I would have to go into the.
there wasn't
There
standards
was none in
then.
1988, there's no
I
standards.
don't, when they weren't building that many fire ponds and everything else around there, and how we change things around, old standards and new standards, because there is no water source.
Not anymore, that road went away.
I think we need to start with the.
The road
plans for
first.
that subdivision.
Is there any need or requirement for the applicant to get, not, permission's probably too strong of a word, but any kind of acknowledgement from the other people that have rights on that private way?
Well, where he is proposing to continue this road, obviously, he is the sole owner of that new road. Whether or not any of the, there is no association.
Yeah.
He has a right to travel over it. He has that in his deed, that he does have in fact a right to travel over it and to run utilities and all the rest of it. There is a maintenance agreement, but that's only for the maintenance of the existing road. I don't believe you're a co-signer on that, right?
No, I'm the only one that did not sign.
Not a signer. But I don't, whether or not there's any prescriptive rights that would prevent him from using that road to expand, don't know. I would assume there aren't. And that may be a big assumption, but it does have to be researched. But I would assume it's not based on reading his deeds.
I think it's concerned, I don't want to spend
Right.
$20,000 and then have somebody.
Get nowhere.
Family, I spent $20,000 for nothing.
Yeah, the other thing is, look at the deed, that it turns out it says heirs and thereafters or whatever else that, to the writer to the, and I call it an easement, because you not owning that section, okay, which is owned by somebody else, depends on how it's written in it.
If I were you, if I were the applicant, what I would do is take my idea to an attorney that deals in this kind of thing and spend whatever, $200-300 and get a legal opinion as to whether this is possible, legally possible. Because that's how we're gonna have to decide it as well.
Yeah. All right.
Because it's got some complex issues associated with it.
Yeah. Pointed that out. It's been going on for 6 months.
We have
It's a tough one.
No, but I have.
So,
So, we'll do, get
So-
back to him, or can I get back on that?
So what does the
Get back to
plan
him and he'll put you on the agenda.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, what does the planning board want staff to do, or what the applicant, exactly what do you want the applicant to supply for the next time it's before you? I would assume it's the map, the original subdivision, and the subsequent ones, because there was another subdivision thereafter, after the original road.
Yeah,
So,
Maintenance agreement.
the map and
Maintenance
any
agreement,
documentation.
which you can get, and your deeds,
Right.
and then this legal opinion.
And legal standing on the road.
Yeah, but
That would be part of the legal opinion, I'm sure the lawyer's gonna get into it.
I mean, it's,
now the map you have, the one that's signed,
Yeah.
there's the lots, 2 lots not there.
Right, there's another, remember, there's the secondary map that has the next 2 lots. That
Now,
were
true signed, is it? That one wasn't signed.
But it may not be signed, but I think we went through and saw that there was in fact some documentation in the minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah.
All right.
was ever followed through to be signed, and they dropped it. So if it
Well,
had,
it was in the minutes, so somebody made a decision. It wasn't that long back.
When I bought those 2 lots were not created,
Right, so it wasn't fairly
but
recent.
she was retaining that land to make 2 lots.
what zones that is, what are,
Or 2.
so it's the minimum lot size of 2 acres.
2 acre lots.
And that's what the applicants,
I,
engineers already done, surveyors already done for the 2 lots already.
Well, I think it's 1 lot,
Right.
but I want 2,
They want 2.
but go for 1 to start. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Next item, zoning ordinance. Amendment.
There are a number of issues that were brought up at the last meeting, Mr. Chairman. And you asked staff to deal with them, and I think what we want to do tonight is try to make some decisions on some things that are outstanding that need to be dealt with. One is, of course, the boundary of the district, since that's seesaw back and forth, that's number 1. Number 2 is you asked staff to do some research on restaurant square footage, which has been done, submitted to you. With several options available, so you need to make some decisions on what you want to do with restaurants. I think the third issue, which we still haven't grappled with, but needs to be grappled with, is the question of what constitutes low impact manufacturing. And given there's been some concern in the neighborhood of low impact manufacturing, what constitutes low impact manufacturing? Remember, in the definition, it's rather wide open. And there's concern of narrowing that down, whether there needs to be a different definition for it in this district, or whether that use would disappear altogether. You also asked me to make some modifications to the, well, actually, you already made modifications to the list of permitted and conditional uses, which have been reflected in the version 3 of the file. So that included also the addition of contractors' yards. It also included schools and service clubs. The elimination of drive-throughs and recreational facilities. I think were 2 that you wanted done. Those have been taken out. But it's all up to the board which ones you want to deal with first. Maybe it would be the boundaries, or perhaps it would be the your choice. Which ones you want to take?
I think we should deal with the boundaries first. I agree. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the issue of the boundaries is whether or not John Clough Lane is in the district or not.
and at the last meeting, that was the last thing that was brought up, to have it resolved.
Yep.
That is the true boundaries of the district. There have been some maps that have circulated that were not quite accurate. This is the true proposed boundary of the district. The green is, of course, you recall, the original proposed district. The brown, as Marty brings up, is the John Clough Lane and the properties that are there. Those would be in addition to this district. The concern has been, as you recall, that John Clough Lane currently has 2 contractor yards. They're non-conforming, legally non-conforming uses in that district. They existed prior to the zoning, and the owners of that would like to be included into this district. And for the purposes of becoming conforming, or to be conforming if we put in contractor yards. They aren't conforming if we don't put contractor yards in this district. And you recall, originally, in our original plan, we did not have contractor yards as a permitted or conditional use in this district. So that was not an original use. So that would be an additional use. It's reflected in the ordinance, in version 3. It's underlined, so it's an assumption that it could or could not happen. That's up to the board's decision. The concern that's been raised by some people has been whether or not that would constitute an impact upon the budding residential neighborhood, and not so much the contractor yard, but if those properties were to have another use on them, it was more high intensity. As you know, or as you well know, as this board knows better than anybody, what those contractor yard requirements are that you put together back in 2013. It's a rather significant buffering that's necessary to protect adjoining residences, regardless what district the contractor yard is in. To these 2 properties, the way it's, I should mention right now 2 other things. Remember that this district, the first use that's discussed in this district is that all legally existing businesses and associated structures operating in the TCD district as of June 10th, 2015, or whatever promulgation date we use, those would be automatically permitted uses. So these 2 uses here would automatically be deemed as being permitted uses if they're included into the district. Right now, if they were to go under our current contractor 2 definitions, which you probably forget, and I've included them in your packet, the minimum lot size is 5 acres for contractor 2 yard if it's not in one of the business districts or it's not specified in the permitted uses.
When did they, or is that when the comprehensive plan extracted them from being legal?
Yes.
In 2004?
I think it
Or
was
is it
before
2000?
I think it was before that. Then it was
When was the
2000.
comprehensive plan?
2005 was the last one, and then there was one in 2000, well, the last one was 2014. But, well, they just passed the amendments this year.
I'm talking about
For
prior.
that district right there, they became non-conforming, I believe. If not prior to 2005, definitely in 2005. And this area was zoned as an R3 district. So this whole area is R3, it's a residential district.
Yeah, because all the businesses were taken out of the residential zone. As
Well,
part
the
of
whole zone, the whole place was.
As part of the comprehensive plan. I'm using that, not this district, but I'm speaking town-wide.
Yes, it was townwide in this area,
That part of town.
was part of the town, and then the follow-up zoning ordinance, which occurred in 6 and 7, made this area to be an R3 district.
67?
No, 2006 and 2007. Town plan passed in 2005, and the revisions occurred in 6 and 7.
I think, no matter what, it's an existing business, it's still there.
It's legally
And
non-conforming.
if it's in that district, they should be included. So there's no questions.
But that's the question.
I
Are
see.
they in the district?
Should they be?
I said they should be.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you said if they're in the district.
No, I said should be,
Okay.
because they've been existing prior to the changes and presently. The change of the comprehensive plan, because they were existing before.
But if the contract
I'm
is
not
storage yards,
Yes, they were.
regardless of the district.
Only when the contractor storage yard gets passed. Remember, that has not been acted upon by the town, the contractor storage yard. So as soon as that gets acted upon, then they would be considered, they would register as existing uses. And regardless of whether they meet the minimum lot size or not is immaterial, what they would do is they would become legally conforming contractor yards in that district. And wherever they are, it doesn't matter what district, it would be in any district that they currently exist in. If they're legally non-conforming uses, they're not made conditional, they're not made legally non-conforming, they're made permitted uses. That site is a permitted use.
Those are the only two businesses on zoning plan. Okay.
Okay. My point with this is, hang on just for a second. For the record, if you could stand and speak your name so that we can pick it all up.
All right, my name is Harry Porter, okay? And for the record, I think that the district should be limited to what the voters voted on, okay? And not an inclusion of a significant parcel that increases this district by a significant proportional amount.
Thank you.
Tommy, when this district was approved, was there boundaries?
No, we haven't
Or
approved
was
it
it a
yet.
concept? Or is,
We showed on the comp plan map that, we showed an area, but it wasn't specified in the comp plan as with limits. We showed an area, which is in the green, but it didn't tie it to that specific area, as other sections of the comp plan did. I believe, let's say in the ARD district, it specifically said we're going to the power lines along Route 111. That was the boundary that was set by the comp plan committee. It didn't really set the boundary here, they just kind of said it, they said it pretty much to John Buff Lane right there, I believe. Mr. Chairman, did we set it completely to John Buff Lane? Can't recall.
No, the language refers to the nexus of Log Cabin Road, Senate Road. So, we purposely did not set boundaries, leaving that up to the planning board.
Good. You solved that question.
My name is Sue Commuter. Can I ask her a question? Sure. Do you own any property within this district that would be affected? Well, I do.
Okay. Yes, sir.
On one of the questions, Lovejoy Builders, if we're in a contractor area, the other part is legal, yet we're not legal because we don't meet the acreage. In commercial, we will be legal on everything, what I understand. Is that correct?
No, not if you register. The contractor yard has a period in which all existing yards register. And when they register, and they are reviewed by the board, and then they're deemed by the board as a legal contractor yard where they are. So that limitation on 5 acres would not apply in this situation. Because there are other yards that don't meet that standard either.
But in commercial, there is no limit. In other words, acreage or what?
No, for a contractor 2 yard, as defined, there is no limit in a commercial district.
So that would make us legal completely.
If we put contractor yards in here, if we put a contractor 2 yard in the permitted uses, yes. When I say commercial districts, we really technically have all mixed-use districts. Our business districts also have residential in them as well. So we don't call them strictly commercial. And they do allow residences to continue in those districts. So, but if it's included in the actual conditional uses, as it is in 822, as you see in the version 3 here, as a proposal, contractor yards 1 and 2, that would make them legal. So you would always be a conditional use in that district. Yours would be considered to be a permitted use, a permitted contractor yard. Any other ones would be a conditional use if they were to come in. So that other piece of property that you might have next to you, if you were to convert that, that might be in that district, that could be another contractor 2 yard, as long as it met, all that requirements, which I'm not sure if that one next to you is 5 acres. I don't think it is.
There's no 5 acres in that whole area.
Yeah, so
we're trying
unless somebody assembled something, yeah. But you would be legal either way.
But in commercial, that would be completely legal.
If you were on Route 1,
options.
yes.
I have more options on my stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do in commercial.
My name is Kim Mounts, and we own property on the Senate Road that abuts the John Clark Lane. When we came to the last meeting in July, we really, when talking about commercial, not happy about it. But then when we left, after listening to all the discussions, talking to some of the small business owners, realizing the difficulties they were having securing loans to improve their businesses, realizing that you guys are setting guidelines as far as what businesses will look like and take shape and everything, walked away, okay, this might be okay. Except for, I'm sorry, John Clark Lane, that goes all the way down behind our property. We've lived in our house for over 30 years. We pay over $4,000 a year in taxes to live there, which is, I won't lie to you, difficult, but yet we love it there. We make it work. It's been a big part of our life, and that piece of property right there abuts, I believe it's, if I read the map right, 6 different residential lots that would be impacted by that becoming a commercial piece of land. And I can only ask you, I'll even beg you, to not let the financial benefits of 2 outweigh 6 residential lots that would be negatively impacted by that change.
Any comments by the board? How do you guys feel?
I'll throw it out. First of all, I understand the difficulty you're running. We're trying for both sides. We're trying to find a balance. It's not easy for us. We're struggling with this as well. But the 2 things, one which I didn't know, realize until I read the letters from I'm not sure who it was, about voting on, someone said voting on what they thought it was going to be, and now it ends up being extra. So that's an issue that we don't want to do a switch and bait. We have to be careful on that. The other is, looking at this map, I was thinking, it's not that big of an impact, but you see the aerial right up to the back of, right after the campground. There's the last sheet. It does look like it has quite an impact. The way I see it is there is a way out from Lovejoy where
near the campground.
Well, but it,
Where's Red Apple, that's what I'm saying.
That's not right.
Red Apple Campground is way farther
That's not correct.
I mean,
Yeah, well,
you're, the monks they turn around and live on this side, the Red Apple Campground is farther up the road.
it sure looks pretty close to the
It's
area.
only from the corner of the Lovejoy lot.
Hold on, let me finish where I was going with this. But that, I think, since the contractor yards will be a legal use anyways, I'm not sure if that will help you as far as securing loans or whatever. It will be an approved use. So I don't know if that's good enough to have a legal use, not an unconditional use. It would be a non-conforming, a legal conforming use if we have contract yards without 3 or 2.
Okay. You had a question, sir?
That gentleman can go first.
That's all right, go ahead.
So I'm Bob Duke,
Thank you.
and I believe the map you guys are looking at was just provided today, but I believe, is that map correct, Tad, that they're looking at?
The map is not correct.
Okay. So the map is not correct. That map was handed out, I believe, by Harry and Sue, is that correct?
I'm going to address this directly if I can to the board. Yeah, hang on, no.
Let them speak.
Okay.
I'm
I would
gonna
like
be
you,
here for a
I would
while.
like you to provide a map that shows the brook on your town map. Then we'll get the perspective of what we're really looking at.
I don't have that resource. I think I have it anywhere.
We may not have that map available.
Understand, but the gentleman's barn that is located on his property that we can see from the aerial map, I'll agree the borders are not exact. They are close. It's an approximation. I had no way to take your map and impose it on it. However, I have looked at the town plats because I own an adjoining property there. All right? That map is fairly accurate. It is not exactly accurate.
There's an app you can get for your phone that's called IntelliCast, and that shows you your weather exactly where you're at. It's very close to what's showing. You can pinpoint, let's say Sawyer Lane, and from there you can expand out, and you can see the Red Apple Campground and John Clough.
So is there any relevance with the map and the app? When I'm standing,
You can use Google.
when you're standing on your property, can you see the property in question? Can you see the building? Can you hear them?
No, I cannot see the farthest building. I can see the first building, yes, from the back end of my property.
Can you hear them?
I have no problem with it.
Absolutely, every morning and every evening when they come in, absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you hear?
What do I hear? The trucks, I can hear the guys. If they have dogs, I can hear the dogs. Don't have an issue with that. That's not my issue. My issue is if that piece of property, that huge piece of property becomes commercial, it may not be them. One day that property could sell to something that is really not something.
What's your fear? What's your concern
My
about what?
fear?
No, I'm respectfully asking the question.
We need to get back on the subject of this. It's not the question of whether or not the map is accurate. The question that we're addressing right now as a board is whether or not we want to include John Clough Lane in the Townhouse Corner District or exclude John Clough Lane from the Townhouse Corner District. That's the issue that we're going to address, not whether or not people make noise going in and out. Unfortunately, that's going to happen.
We've never complained about that, ever.
The plan that was approved, it has no defined boundaries.
That is correct.
So with the language that, I believe it's Donna?
Yeah.
Well, how did they define it?
Well, it's basically, to read it in the ordinance, it's located at the nexus of Arundel Road, Log Cabin Road, and Senate Avenue.
And where does that nexus terminate?
We didn't set.
So
that.
now that is what the discussion is
That is
about.
correct.
However, if I may finish my thought, what is on that map, excluding the John Clough Lane, was what we discussed at all of the meetings of the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. There were some discussions, some meetings of extending it further up Log Cabin Road, and we decided in our discussions that for the time being, we would limit the discussion points to what shows on that map.
But it could go further down Log Cabin Road. It could go all the way to Route 1 in the flea market or not?
Well,
Because we have commercial use all the way in existence now.
I understand that, but I think we are having a little bit of confusion about what the comprehensive plan is versus the land use ordinance. And this is difficult for lots of folks. It's not just the people here tonight or 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks from now. The comprehensive plan is supposed to be a very general guideline to direct certain things to certain areas of town. The history of this particular district was that the planning board suggested that the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee look at this as a mixed-use district to hopefully alleviate some of the difficulty that you referred to in terms of commercial businesses that had existed there historically and still exist today, being in a residential district and having difficulty getting loans and doing other business transactions as a result of that. It made sense as we looked at it as a committee, represented, by the way, by people from all over town, to look at that district as what it was historically, which was mixed use. Businesses right next to residences. And continue that. It's not the job of the comprehensive plan, as a general rule, nor should it be, to make the small decisions like where is the boundary. We did impose one limit on the ARD in terms of the power lines because of an obvious geographical limitation. But that's, and the Biddeford line, that's automatic. But that's the only thing that we suggested.
So that becomes the decision of the board and the planner and the community, basically, at the public meetings. Correct or incorrect?
Ultimately, it becomes the decision of the community at town meeting when they vote on whatever it is that the planning board suggests.
And that's how the comprehensive plan was approved, just without defining the boundaries.
That's correct. The committee put together a proposal. We had a great deal of public input from the people in all of the districts that were approved in that comp plan at town meeting. And here we are tonight with the planning board taking the next step.
And
So
that is the purpose of this meeting, to get the feedback from the citizens and to make that decision. And we need to make that decision. We need to start moving on because we've got a bunch of other stuff in the TCD district that we have to deal with tonight.
I understand. But can I ask her another question? Did you have a community, like when you were designing this plan or just thinking of implementing it, what was your vision? What community were you thinking you were going to model it after when you wanted mixed use? Was it downtown Biddeford in the Mill District, where you have old factories, businesses, restaurants, tenement housing? What was your vision for that district? Someone had to have a vision of what they thought it would be or not?
The vision was that it would be part of Arundel. It's an Arundel neighborhood. It's
Right.
not Biddeford, it's not Kennebunkport, it's not Kennebunk, it's not Falmouth, it's not New Jersey.
Correct.
It's an Arundel neighborhood with Arundel residents. And those were the people that we spoke to.
So you just
Okay,
wanted to
I'm
kind of...
going to have to pull this to a stop. The planning board asked the comprehensive plan to look at that neighborhood because there were businesses there that were struggling because of the zoning ordinance that they found themselves in. We asked them to take a look at it. They looked at it, they recommended this district. We're now looking at tying all of this out. And that being said, we're going, in the back?
Yeah, I just want to comment, it wasn't just, I believe, that the existing businesses that were there also, there was, that being the gateway into Kennebunk Court and stuff, they thought, the EDC recommended.
Yes, the EDC was involved in that decision as well. I'm
So
sorry,
it
I
wasn't
should have
just
given you the
existing
credit for it.
businesses, it was also thought of as new business.
Okay, so we're gonna move on, we're gonna address the issue. Thank you for your time.
Well, I didn't think I was done. We in a rush. We've been 2 years with this.
We can stay for another 2 years. Seriously, that's how long we've been trying to deal with this, and we keep going back over the same information. We've gone over this information on John Clough Lane. We did it once, we changed our mind, we're now back at looking at it again. I think we need to make a decision as a planning board and move on and stick with that decision. And in order to do that, we need to know where the planning board stands. You can have a discussion all night with Donna, you can have a discussion all night with us, but if we don't know where the planning board stands, we're gonna end up in exactly the same position.
I understand. I didn't come to discuss. I was just respectfully listening to their input.
And I'm respectfully asking you to
So-
allow us to discuss it.
Well, so I'm done?
Yes. I'm going to call an end to that debate, and the planning board is going to have a discussion about John Clough Lane. We will have other points that we will discuss.
Is the decision going to be made tonight?
I sure hope so.
Well, then I think I need to speak.
After we have had our discussion, and we have had a chance to reach a consensus about where we stand.
The decision is going to be made by the town voters.
Yes, we're going to recommend to the town a specific plan of action and boundaries for this area.
I understand.
Marty, what do you think?
I think the John Clough Lane should be included because they were an existing business before the comprehensive plan extracted.
Okay. Tom?
I am looking at whether this is going to pass a town meeting or not. I always have two gauges. One is if I live in that area, how would it feel to me? I don't live in this neighborhood, so it doesn't personally affect me, but try to figure whether it's a business or a residence, what would the impacts be. That's one thing. The other is, whatever we put together, how will the rest of the residents in town feel about it? And there's no sense going through something and having it voted down. That happens a lot. I'm seeing this as not an easy thing to pass if that's included. I think I'm hearing enough dissent that will carry over right for the next 9 months to June town meeting. So I'm leaning towards keeping it the way it was. I know the comprehensive plan didn't have any specific boundaries, but all the discussions involved looking at the map. And that's what all discussions revolved around. Everybody involved was looking at that as shown. So even though it wasn't written, the picture was worth 1,000 words. So I think most people that voted in favor of it, that knew about it, saw it as the map was shown. So that's why I'm leaning towards just leaving it as it was.
Jamie?
When I look at that map, the bulk of what I see are smaller lots right along the road. And through the course of this conversation, and I wasn't at one of the meetings when a lot of this debate went on, but through the course of the conversation, it seems like we're trying to do a whole lot to fit in perhaps a couple of parcels that might not quite fit that same mold as the rest of the green lots out there. And that being said, I think we should take a real hard look at if that red area is not included, at what we can do to help accommodate the existing businesses in a residential area to make their lives easier. But, as it is now, I think I'd be inclined to go with the green.
John?
Well, my feeling is that we've had a request by the owners of those parcels to be included, and I am all for inclusion. These landowners want to participate in this district. They see an advantage to themselves to participate, so they're supporting the district. I don't see why we should not include them. I don't see any real good reason why they should not be included in this district. There is some potential for development there. the town needs business development. There's already plenty of activity in that area, so I think a little bit of development there, it's sort of off the road a bit, it's not gonna make a huge difference. So I support inclusion of John Clough Lane.
The fact that both of these businesses are contracted storage yards and would be permitted regardless of what district they were in, I'm going to say that we just stop and go with what's in the green.
Kids are having everybody going down the road, let's have your turn.
I've got no problem. I happen to agree with you, because it's, specifically because it's a contractor storage yard, and will end up being a permitted use in whatever district it ends up in. The conflict appears to be too great going into the Townhouse Corner District, and I tend to agree with Tom. Whether it was deliberately done by the planning board or by the comprehensive plan, at town meeting, it was spelled out on a map, and we all looked at the map and said, yes, that's the district. And the cutoff was John Clough Lane. I tend to side with the voters of the town on that one and say, okay, that's what they voted on, and I'm willing to go along with it.
What part of John Clough Lane?
What? It goes right up.
Where's the road go?
It goes right up to the edge of the road, and after that, it is not in the TCD. Yes, sir.
There's two sides to John Clough Lane. Did the voters specify we want to stop on the northerly side of John Clough Lane or the southerly side of John Clough Lane? Why wouldn't anything that's attached to John Clough Lane be included? And I didn't come here to stick up for them. I came here for something completely different, which you cut me short. But if you're saying what the voters voted on, if it's John Clough Lane and they're on John Clough Lane, then why wouldn't they be included?
The way the map was laid out, John Clough Lane was not included in the TCD district, in the Townhouse Corner District.
How was it
went
described?
right, it went up to the, it wasn't described. It was a general concept that the comprehensive plan said, this is what we want, and they left it up to us as a planning board to define that district, which is what we're talking about right now. Marty?
Question, only another thought, okay? See a thought of what the comprehensive plan described, of where, how it's described, up to north side, south side, or anything else. I mean, as their committee, not as necessarily one person, because we're taking the guidelines from what they did along the way.
This guidelines on the map is a property, it's not, it's up to John Clough Lane, and there's a property on one side that abuts it. I'm just going by the map.
This.
Not yet.
So I will make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we include the properties on John Clough Lane in the Townhouse Corners District.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded to include John Clough Lane in the Townhouse Corner District. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is defeated. John Clough Lane will not be included in the Townhouse Corner District.
Next.
Next item. We address the square
Wayne,
footage.
you got a question back there, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Hi there, I'm Bob Thibodeau. I own one of the properties on John Clough Lane. Fully understand, excuse me, the board's decision. And part of it is based on the contractor yard that you have set up.
Correct.
To go to vote, correct?
Yes.
Is that incorporated in all of the townhouse district zone, become commercial and everything else?
It's all one big package with that piece put in there, correct?
That is, yes, sir. We're looking at revising the entire ordinance.
I would just respectfully ask the board to have that on a separate warrant. That way the town voters could vote on that and could possibly protect myself and the other owner of the property down there, so we can continue what we do to be legitimate in the town and follow the guidelines in that, and not have the potential of not being able to get a commercial loan, not being shut down for being in a residential district.
That's an understandable point. The makeup of the warrant itself is decided by the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
We will present the information to them, and they will do with it as they would. Part of the problem that we ran into is that the ordinance, with the entire rewrite, there are parts of the ordinance that are affected by everything else that's in the entire ordinance.
But that one seems to be its own separate item.
Yep.
And if it takes care of a lot of different businesses throughout the town of Arundel. So if it was a separate warrant item, it would take care of a lot, instead of someone not liking Townhouse, but liking Route 1, but we're gonna vote against it. Now the whole thing is, 2 years is down the drain, and if it was a separate warrant item, then it would protect a lot of the small businessmen in the area to be able to continue what we've been doing, where things have changed since we purchased our properties.
I agree. It is something that is up to the Board of Selectmen in terms of the makeup of the warrant itself.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mike.
can we request that as part of the honey-do list?
We
So
can.
it's not forgotten?
We can
Because everything gets shuffled, everything turned out is all of a sudden thrown into the pot, and we don't find any of the leftover, the honeydew pot, where we're supposed to be separated.
When it gets out to it, we can make that recommendation, and I did notice one of our elected
CRS.
selectmen.
We all got CRS. Can't remember stuff.
Yeah, we all suffer from that one.
I said, that's what I did.
Okay. The next item. We looked at square footage.
What you asked, Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
At the last meeting, the board decided that the issue of, two things happened. You decided that 5,000 square feet was the definition of small, and that was the top, that was the maximum size of a small building as specified by the comp plan committee. That was your interpretation, that small, and given the inventory of buildings in that area, 5,000 square feet is the top end of small. So that's how the board has determined the maximum size of square footage for commercial structures, new commercial structures in that area. So the question was, that's number one. Number two, the other question was dealing with restaurants. There was a question about whether restaurants should be limited by square footage or seats or parking. And I believe we even talked about ITE, if I'm not mistaken, trip generation. The board considered that and decided we were going to keep it simple and stay with square footage, because square footage doesn't change where ITE, seats, and all the rest of that does change. So what you charged me to do was to get some comparisons of square footages, not only on theoretical restaurants, but on actual restaurants. And that's a good exercise because it shows some very interesting results. The first is that the original restaurant statistics for the TCD, and what I did is I switched them around this time and based them on square footage instead of seats. I gave you a list of what we can expect based on the National Restaurant Association assumption on what is the floor area at the back of the house and what's the floor area of the seating area, which is hypothetical, it's their assumption. The minimum square footage per seat is specified by the Maine Fire Marshal, which is 15 square feet for a sitting restaurant. It's much less for, let's say, a tavern, 7 square feet. And our current requirement for parking, which is 1 space per 3 seats. And you'll note that we did this incrementally, starting at 1,000 square feet, all the way up to the maximum that you've been talking about for 5,000 square feet. Now, based on these standards, we conclude that we're looking at up to, for 5,000 square feet, we would be looking at a restaurant with 233 seats and 78 spaces. Midpoint between that at 2,500, which I didn't do, I had 3,000, okay. That's 140 seats for a 3,000 square foot restaurant with 47 spaces. And so forth, to give you a graduation of different square footages, culminating with the 5,000 square foot that you're limiting all new construction that is supposed to be all new commercial construction. So, but when you start looking at how it really works in the real world, things change, because buildings, especially buildings that have been adapted, there's a lot of adaptive reuse of old structures, that there's a lot more of unusable or unleasable space, or space that is not usable for seats, or is not convenient for seating, or quite frankly is too close together for seating. We start seeing our ratios changing dramatically. And here's a list, for instance, going to the tax records and talking to the assessors, and measuring, actually going and doing some measuring in some cases. We picked out basically 8 units, 8 existing restaurants, including Allison's, the Seafood Center, Duffy's, Sebago Brew Pub, 77 Pier, Village Tavern, Abadante, Tia's Topside, and talk to the owners, or talk to the personnel there on what they have for usable seats there, and got the total square footage from the assessors. And you see that there's a big difference between what happens in reality and what the fire marshal calls for. So we took the total square footage that was used for the restaurant operations, divided by the number of seats, and came up with what the actual square footage per seat is in each one of these facilities. And you see it's pretty dramatic. You go all the way from 46 at Allison's, and that's an older structure between 2 buildings, 2nd and 1st floor. They have 125 seats there, and that each seat is 46 square feet. It goes all the way down to the low end, which would be Duffy's, which has been recently rehabbed, and they have 200 seats, and they still have 21 square feet per seat, and yet a lot of those seats are basically bar and tavern style seats, if you've ever been there. So it's not always a dining, four-person, 6-person table dining. And then you've got any number in between. You know, Pier 77 is different between the 2 floors, but it all boils down to 27 square feet per seat. Village Tavern is 47, but that's because they also have a lot of standing room there too. But that gives you an idea of nowhere. The closest place we get to 15 square feet is Duffy's. So if we look at the square footage for these, you see that the mean or the average square footage for these, and they can change depending on which restaurants we get. These are ones we randomly selected. And we get about a mean of 3,200 square feet for the restaurant, with a mean of 139 or 140 seats, and a 34 square foot per seat. So if we have a 5,000 square foot building, which is the maximum square foot building that you specified, that would be a restaurant, given these percentages, at about 147 instead of 237, and 233. So it all depends on the nature of the structure. There's no real way to do it, but this does show there are real disparities based on the type of building, based on its construction, based on its layout, and based on its adaptive reuse. So that is the information that you asked. Now, what can you do with this information? You have a variety of different options. pick some midpoint and say that restaurants are limited in size to the mean, which is, actually I went a little higher than the mean, which is 3,500 square feet. Two, that restaurants, like all other new buildings, will be limited to 5,000 square feet in the area. Also, given this information, you can say that restaurants aren't limited at all in size. There is no limitation. And, or else the planning board picks the size, a maximum square footage.
Two questions.
Sure.
One, fire marshal usually dictates, okay, again, it depends on the floor layout.
Correct.
Okay. But what do we do when we have an existing structure already that is larger than, and if it wants to be, I mean, it's already in place? Are we
It's an
gonna say
existing
no?
structure. No, it's an existing structure.
Are we gonna say they're limited to,
It's an existing structure.
correct, but current standards may have changed from then to now, okay? But rules and regulations, that's what I'm using it as your standards. But as far as I understand correctly, okay, one thing you asked me to find out, okay, that the old seating capacity was roughly almost to the max was 200 at Four Fountains,
Okay.
roughly. But like I said, that's 7,000 square foot.
Right. Shows there's a huge difference between what we assume what the fire marshal says and what happens in reality. And they also have multiple uses in there. This is just all restaurant. It also actually had a lot of space in there for you know, dancing and so forth, and so.
We got the front of the house and the back of the house.
Yeah, much different front of the house and the back of the house, yeah. So, I mean, no, in that situation, we're talking about limitations on new construction or of a, I believe it's the maximum square footage for buildings, for new buildings.
Of course, it also depends on what kind of restaurant it is. That will draw your people.
Exactly.
If you want to do fine dining or turn on, if you're doing,
But the point is that that's why we wanted to go with square footage. And that can vary. It can vary tremendously in the number of seats that are provided based on the type of dining.
fine dining, you're not going to turn out be squeezed in like sardines.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think you'll see that in reflected in some of these places, in some of these percentages, although, you know, we look at Village Tavern and they have 47 square feet per seat, so.
Yeah, but also too, when you were looking at them, okay, that some of that was also too, at the same time, under different owners, where they only wanted to go up to certain size or anything else. But like your new one that's down in the top side or whatever else on, I think that's one of the newest restaurants around it, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, you look at that, at 4,000, they got 156. Again, structural design and floor layout. You have a hand up back there, sir.
Yeah, I just want to mention, just looking at this list that we put together and the restaurants, it's basically, the difference is, it looks like the square footage per seat is because of the layouts. I mean, Allison's is a two-story building, it's chopped up, you have the bar in the center, you have a, you know, so it's just the way it's laid out, they couldn't get any more seats in there. Abundante, it's all open space, therefore, you know, they can make 3,000 square feet work for them, you know what I mean? And then you're not gonna get 15, you know, square feet, because you got a kitchen, you got baths, you got, you know, so I don't know why we just don't leave it at the fire marshal standard, you know, what they put. I mean, I don't know what we're trying to do here as far as, I mean.
Well, I think that's the question right now. We have said that there is no seating. We are not basing restaurants on seating. So the question becomes, do we want to have a standard on restaurants other than the 5,000 square feet, which we have classified as a small business? And I think that's the question that the board needs to look at. is whether we say, we've allowed a business of 5,000 square feet. Now, do we want to say to the restaurant, well, no, that's too big? Or do we want to say there should be some other standard by which it should be applied?
Yeah, and I'll argue that we just stick to the 5,000 because it falls right within average parameters, if you will. So 5,000 gives you roughly 150 seats,
And
which
you
is
would-
approximately what the average restaurant would have.
And you would find me in agreement with that, because I don't, if we're telling a business in this district you can be 5,000 square feet, I don't care what kind of business it is. It's not up to me to say that you can, we're gonna restrict you because you're a restaurant, or we're gonna restrict you because you're a bicycle shop. I don't think that that's at all appropriate.
Yeah, but the only problem with the bicycle shop, we have less seats.
Marty, you could get more than 150 bicycles in there.
Yeah, but no, not that many seats.
I gotta agree with you, I think we should just go with 5,000 square feet.
I agree with that too.
Okay.
So move that we
I don't think we
proceed over,
need,
we might not need to.
I don't think we need to do anything. If we're gonna say that it's 5,000 square feet, then a restaurant can have 5,000 square feet.
That's a good study.
We don't want
I
to.
think we-
No, I think it's very
That's a
good.
great study.
We appreciate that.
It gives us a lot of information. The big problem is that they're gonna end up having to have like 70 parking spaces.
Depends on your acreage.
It'll work out.
Yeah.
Hey, depends on your
I mean, that's
acreage.
part
Depends on your acreage,
of,
you're
that's part of
absolutely
what
correct.
they've got.
But that's a
Do
decision
in the
that the
design.
owner
Right.
gets to make,
Yeah,
not
but
us.
then also too, you aren't considering your parking spaces to be motorcycles.
You're right, Marty? I'm not.
What was the other item?
We have a question out back, sir.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Rich, I mean, on that, basically you're saying the 5,000 square foot is a permitted use in that district. If somebody wanted a 6,000 square foot restaurant, they would have to come to you and see if you could get it and change the use.
They have to go to the
So-
voters, they won't come to us.
They'd have to go to the voters to get the ordinance changed.
Right.
Unless
So
they're
if they
an
wanted to
existing,
change it-
unless it's an existing structure.
There is no existing restaurant in that area.
There has been.
There
It's
has-
not there now.
It's not there now, and it
But I
hasn't
said
been
it's
for a
an
very long
existing
time.
structure.
Not an existing
The,
use.
the existing structure can be more than 5,000 square feet. The use cannot. The use is 5,000 square feet. Or at least that's the
No.
way I understand.
No. 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 What, you gonna cut the building 2,000 square feet off the building? It's an existing building. It's an existing structure. It's not a new construction.
It has not been used as a restaurant in a very, very long time.
You have a question back there.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I own the structure, and I don't care if you limit it to 5,000 square feet. You guys can stop eating the dead horse. I'm not going in the restaurant business. It's pretty simple.
Thank you very much.
Just tell me how many seats I can put in 5,000 square feet if I want to sell it to Bentley. How many seats can I put in 5,000 square feet?
Depends on the fire marshal.
Depends on, according to the fire marshal, 233.
I'm not selling it to Bentley.
And your neighbors greatly appreciate that, I'm sure.
What was the other one?
Was there another one?
Yeah, let's see, the next one was, all right, I have a question to ask now.
All right, marijuana?
No, but you got rid of that last one.
Right.
Lawn tech manufacturer.
Contractor yards, what do we do with those now? Since they're not in there, what do you want to do with contractor yards? Well, let's look at our definition again. That's on page 6, contractor yard 1, contractor yard 2.
Ted, are they gonna be proposed to be in every zone?
Yeah, yes, right? I believe, did I make that copy for you?
No.
Those of you who have been around through this should have your copy, but let me pull it up. We did this back in 2012 and finalized it in 13, if you recall.
No, it's too long ago to remember.
this ordinance, that was, oh, wait a minute, I think I transferred it, so we're looking at. Yeah, there it is, hey. Okay, there's contractor yards.
Can you blow it up so the rest of us can see it?
Working on it. Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
The rest of the public see it?
Don't know. I want to find oh, we gotta change dates. Okay, contractor storage yard 2, contractor yard 1 is allowed in all residential districts, provided it meets these minimum standards. Contractor yard 2, which is what the two gentlemen,
That's the one we want right there.
where contractor.
Contractor yard one, the other one was for existing yards.
These are existing yards. Oh, you want to see it for new yards?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, my mistake. Contractor, commencing after June, it'll be June 10th, 2015, or whenever. See, we still have CCS.
Right, we have to.
Let's see, driveway entrances, I don't know if we've got, all right, here's our, oh, there's our vehicle codes. I don't think we've got any specific, we have no specific requirement on minimum lot size. Just where the driveway entrance is, that it's buffered, yard illumination, and oil, odors and dust, and then this, and I don't know why, oh, there they are. Yeah, we have the size of the vehicles, the codes, and they're codes because that's the tax code. And then, yeah, the limitations, contractor 2 yards, so yeah, you can put it in that district. Contractor 1 yards, contractor 2 yards. Let's see, I'm looking for the limitation. I think that was the 5. I think, let's see, no? RV's not coming up. I thought we had.
So let's put it this way, if my memory serves right, back then, we didn't even have the thought of having this district.
This district?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We talked about it in 2011. We also had the Eastern Trail District, remember the two of
Yeah,
those?
that's Eastern Trail. This
No,
is
this,
the
they were presented the
townhouse
same
district.
night. They were presented the same night.
Okay, so here's the restriction on contractor 1.
No, but there was a 5 acre in here. I don't know why it's not on here.
I have a couple of questions. What is the big difference between 1 and 2? And the other is, which one would Lovejoy's be? I want to make sure that they're covered.
The restriction that I noticed on 1 is that it has to have a residential property on it.
For 1 and 2?
No, for contractor 1, it has to have a residential property on it. Contractor 2 does not.
Is that the main difference?
I think so.
That
That and
and
the size.
Yes,
That and the
the
size.
number of vehicles, type
Yeah,
of
it was the
vehicle,
type of vehicle.
some restrictions on the type.
You also had a limitation that was limited only to the BI district, the CCN, and the CCS, HC, and the R4. Mr. Chair, what did I do too? I swear we had a minimum of 5 acres. Don't know where that is.
Is it in a table somewhere, Chad?
It is in a table, but the table's not attached, and this was the one that was going to town meeting. Let me just check. I have to go back. You guys discuss it while
I think in concept, we're all.
I think I think having yard 1 would be acceptable.
The 2 are.
The 2 I would have an issue with.
The 2, I think, is a little high intensity
Right.
for this use.
Mr. Chairman, another question. Out there.
Yes,
Did you,
state your name.
Don Kendron, did you before vote that the north of John Clough Lane would not be included in the town Escort district?
Yes, we did.
Then why is this an issue with regards to their contractor storage yards?
It's not.
It's not.
Okay, so you're looking at just Potential contractor
Townwide.
storage yards anywhere
Right.
else within the,
Anywhere else within that district,
okay,
yes.
we're a little bit confused there for a moment.
So the fact that it's not a district, that's why we want to make sure there's.
It is a conditional use, according to that.
Where I'm at is we're kind of, at least I was leaning towards figuring they'll be in good shape because this would be approved. I don't want to end up having to pull the rug out under them, so I just want to.
But that was the nature of my confusion, they're not in the district.
But
They're in a zone. So we're gonna have to make sure that they
Yeah, we'll have
get
to
addressed
work
in
on
the district that they're in.
Yeah. So,
So I think we proceed with only contractor yard number one.
I think yard one would be the appropriate thing to do.
I'm sorry,
All right.
I said I want to have my personal computer, so no.
Jim, can you make that a motion so we can vote on it and put it to bed?
I can't. I move we,
Can I ask a question first?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
So now, we've just taken the 7,000 square foot facility that I own, which everyone was worried was gonna be a restaurant, and now it won't be that. And now I gotta move there if I wanted to store more, because you're eliminating contractor yard 2 in that zone? Is that what's happening right now? You're approving contractor 1 in that zone, but you're considering not allowing contractor 2, meaning you have to reside there. So what do I do with that facility? I'm just curious, because we're trying to create tax revenue, and I pay $150,000 in value right now on a 7,000 square foot structure, 3.5 acres, 1.7 miles from Dock Square. I don't want to go in the restaurant business, but it's all about the taxes in the town of Arundel. My kids are the 5th generation here, and I'm not going anywhere. I own probably one of the most valuable properties on the Log Cabin Road in regards to acreage and a property. And I'm not complaining about what's going to go on there. You got R.H. Brown across the street. Now, I'm not telling you I want to put that in, but you are tying the business person's hands with all of these limitations. Nothing is going to happen in that zone other than everything that's there may conform and it's not going to expand. What do I do with this? Because this is the big parcel in this zone. And I've been in it, I got dragged into this recently. Because, so what do I do with that 3.5 acre parcel that has the potential to generate, we'll say, hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax-based value for the town of Arundel, if the right thing goes in there? So now I can't put a contractor storage facility there. We're limiting it to a 5,000 square foot restaurant. You're just putting all kinds of limitations. What's the plan? Is it a long-term? What's the vision of this plan? Is it 10, 20, 30, 40 years instantly? Are we trying to generate revenue with this plan, or are we just trying to appease a few taxpayers or property owners right now, presently, for short-term benefit? Or is the planning board's job or purpose to have a long-term vision for the taxpayers of Arundel and to keep taxes affordable? We had one lady say tonight, she pays $4,000 in taxes and it's hard. So I would think, because I'm a businessman, I don't know how many of you up there are businessmen, but I would think you would want to make this more inviting, to bring some revenue to the town. But what do you think is going to happen? What are you going to gain? You just count the lots that you're having there right now. You've been beating this for 2 years. You're going to get it approved, and I agree with Tom McGinn. It's probably going to get shot down in June anyway. I think the whole plan should be shot down right now, and I own the biggest piece of it. I think it needs to start over. It's too diluted. I spoke with professional engineers before I came to this meeting. I spoke to architects. I spoke to planners that are seated now. The plan is set up to fail. If it's a short-term gain that we're looking for, to just keep a few taxpayers happy, and I could be a major taxpayer there. I'm paying less taxes for my 7,000 square, and I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. I'm shooting myself right in the foot in front of all of you. I'm paying For $150,000 in value on a 7,000 square foot facility, 3.5 acres, 2 acres of gravel parking lot, 800 feet of frontage on the Senate Road, a right-of-way on the Log Cabin Road, 1.7 miles from Dock Square in Kennebunkport. What is the purpose of what we're trying to do right now? After 2 years, what has been the net gain for the taxpayer of Arundel? I'm willing to pay more taxes. I'm standing here right now. You guys are foolish, or the town is foolish. You're taxing me on $150,000 in value, but only because I can't grow. I can't do anything.
And right now, you can't do anything.
And
We
when
are
you're,
trying
this
to allow
plan is,
something in there.
it is set up to fail. It's gonna gain nothing. You need, I hate to say this, my wife probably gonna throw me out of bed tonight, because she's been dealing with this for over 2 years. The plan needs to be scratched. The residents aren't happy. Mr. Lovejoy's been paying taxes for 30 years. He's employed hundreds of people. Now, I have to say, I framed houses for Richard Lovejoy. He's paid a lot of taxes in Arundel. He created a couple residential lots over there. What does that do for the town of Arundel? It gets us a short-term gain on some tax revenue, but once the kids come in and they go to the school system, isn't this about trying to bring business to that district? And no one's coming. I talk to developers every day. I'm actively involved in construction in Biddeford, Kennebunk, and Kennebunkport. Why is no one coming here? Why are the three surrounding communities thriving and prospering? You think when they came to build Biddeford Crossing and they went to the town planner and they said, we want to put Biddeford Crossing all the way from the turnpike to the top of Chicks Hill, I don't want that here. Go somewhere else. How can you set this up to fail? We need to generate tax revenue. This is going to do nothing. All this is going to do is going to have the same tax revenue. We're going to gain nothing. We've got lots of all different sizes, mine being the white elephant in there, that could bring the most value to the town. What am I going to do with it? You know what I'm doing with it? What I'm doing right now? Nothing. Just sit on it, because someday my kids are in their teens are going to reside in this town. And there'll be a board, or there'll be a planner, or there'll be someone that wants to bring the business here before the town goes bankrupt. We can't afford to just keep tying people's hands. The business cannot start and prosper here. But just, I'm already moving to have the planner's position eliminated. I was at the selectmen's meeting the other night, and I haven't, and I know it's irrelevant.
We are way outside.
You know, we're way, but I'm just telling you right now, this
Sit
is
down.
destined to fail.
Please
You're gaining no
sit
tax
down.
revenue, none. And I own the property.
Please sit down.
Yeah, I'm fine
Thank
with
you.
that. Yeah.
This is way outside of what we were supposed to be talking about. I understand your frustration.
I'm not frustrated. I'm not frustrated. I'm paying $150,000 in value on
Okay.
a 7,000 square foot building. And I want to pay more taxes. Who comes to me and says that?
It is 9 o'clock. Do we have anything else on the PCD that we have to cover? That you know of?
Low impact manufacturing, you decided to keep, that's about it. I
Okay.
don't think there was anything, there was just, no.
We've had our votes on the issues that need to be done, and we are going to move on. Planner's business.
Let's see. There was a meeting today with the Arundel, Arundel seasonal cottages today, met with Army Corps and DEP, coming up with the schedule. They're planning to start next month. Next month, blasting and proceeding with their initial infrastructure and basically punching in a road.
When are they going to start that?
They're going to start next month.
Next month?
Yeah, they're going to start in September. It starts with CEA. We've already gone over, they owe me, they owe the town, performance assurance. They're giving me the amount that, as you recall, that was probably the first phase, which includes the clubhouse. The clubhouse is back in as part of the first phase, so that will be, of course, that's going to create an immediate valuation. So they'll be coming in with that, and we haven't figured out on the number yet, but the first phase, as I remember before, was 1.9 million. So unless they modify that and the prices are changed, that's what we're proceeding with. Also, we still have to discuss the issue of the second means of egress, and they have to get through Hidden Meadows. That's the second means of egress for the second phase, as you recall. So they're proceeding, and they've made the arrangements with the EP, and so we're going to be getting that thing off the ground. It's going to be starting, which is a very good thing. That is just about, there hasn't really been much else since 2 weeks ago. I have several other applications. I do have a 55 and older, small 55 and older community coming. It's not a community, it's going to be a small 55 and older development. This is going to be the first one in the town. Hopefully it'll be one of many. This might be our bringing. They have worked out, you probably remember, it was over at, until they see me, I won't specify the person, but they have worked out their right-of-way. We sat down, had a meeting today, we worked out the right-of-way issues. A couple of ordinance and design points we need to work out, but they're going to be coming in probably, I would say maybe October with this. It will be about a 7-unit, 55 and older community. So it's not a community, but it's our first 55 and older development. Well, it's not just condo, but it's 55 and older, which is pretty critical because this is another revenue generator, because what it does is it generates a good-sized revenue without having an impact on services, so it's a positive fiscal impact on the town.
We do have one in the trailer park on Campground Road.
Yes. This is a stick-built one.
Yeah. The clubhouse. How many, because to get a chance to ask pop questions.
Sure.
How many seating is in the clubhouse?
I don't know, they haven't told me that yet.
Well, it turned out when we were just popping with restaurants and their clubhouses.
I'll give them the sheet one.
Or just
Ask
ask a
them
question.
which one of the square footages do they want to fit into.
Just ask a question.
It's a legitimate question. I don't know yet. I don't know what their, if you recall, their clubhouse was very theoretical when they did it.
Yeah. Considering there's 278 units, and you're gonna have how many per, you're gonna have quite a few seatings.
Well, obviously, 259.
Whatever.
Um,
With a hand grenade.
The issue is that they haven't decided yet. They will have to provide the parking, and they're going to have to do some, obviously they're going to have to do some site, they're going to have to come to us with their site plans on this.
Have they also squared off with pipeline people on the other end?
That was left to the landowner to square off of the pipeline. It's my understanding that they have squared off, because the pipeline, basically Unitil went in and made the sleeves and changes back last year.
Are they bringing natural gas now?
No.
Okay.
The problem with the natural gas is
Infrastructure costs.
Well, it's not the infrastructure as much as it is the depressurization. You have to have a pressure change there, and that's the cost. And the selectmen were looking at that as part of the economic development program that would come out of the TIF district for this. And that was one of the options, was to put in a pressure station, and that pressure station is about $500,000 at the very minimum, probably more. And that's without the additional infrastructure. So they're not going to do it now. There's no advantage to them, because they're not really going to be, they're not going to be winter users. And the cost per foot is not going to really be worth it. So. Yeah, I know. I would love it if they were to do it, but I don't really have a big generator to get Unitil interested in this thing. That's it. we have a number of other projects coming in. I have somebody who wants to do some improvements in the we haven't gotten to yet, the Gateway District. There are a couple people there who are excited, want to get some.
Which end of town?
The Gateway District at the north end of town on Route 1. The one we haven't done
There's two
yet.
ends. I don't know why.
Well, we only have the Gateway District on the northern part. I'm welcome to do the southern one if you want, Marty, but we only have the Gateway District on that, and there are a couple property owners there.
You
pretty
don't
excited
want
about
my
the
comment.
district. So, otherwise, there are a number of projects that are in the wings, some subdivision rumblings going on right now. I have two more private way exemptions that we're going to be considering at the staff level. A couple of site plans we're going to be doing at the staff level, nothing that's coming your way yet. So, staff's busy, we just don't have anything big yet to present to you, except of course for the Ames improvements.
Board have anything?
I will be absent for the next 3 meetings.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Yay.
Did the board officially vote on the restaurant issue, or is that still pending?
No, the board's position on the restaurant is that we're going to stay with what we had. It is 5,000 square feet.
So, that's a limitation.